Some games are absolute nostalgia bombs, but when you get back to them, they're just not the same. Some games are better left in the past. These were titles we played for hours and thought they were the best game ever until they weren't. Replaying them now? Not a good idea. From broken controls to gameplay that aged like spoilt milk, these are iconic games that might just be a miss nowadays. GoldenEye probably isn't one you were expecting on this list. This was the multiplayer game if you were a 90s kid. It practically walked on water, but if you boot this up nowadays, it's not the same, especially on emulator. What felt like a revolutionary experience back on N64 really feels like a nightmare with controls that tank. Movement, camera rotation, it just feels janky. You can't aim without holding a trigger and anchoring your feet like you're operating a flat cannon during the Second World War, and obviously the frame rate dips harder than Bitcoin during a bull market. You can't be critical on AI from the 90s to be fair, but the gods don't give much of a care in the world when you dome their co-worker in the face. Don't get me wrong, there's still nostalgia when booting up this game, and if there was a remaster on PC with more fluid controls, or some aim assist, it would still slap. Let's be honest, but it feels like playing modern Warzone with some oven mitts and a GameCube controller with no aim assist. True Crime is one of the many franchises gloriously dubbed as the next GTA killer, and this was peak edgy in the early 2000s. You're a kung fu wielding cop in a badass leather jacket, beating up gangsters while Snoop Dogg tunes play in the background. It can't get better than that. What we remember as a huge open world Los Angeles with martial arts and pure chaos now feels overshadowed with poor driving mechanics, a shooting system that feels super janky, and combat that's reminiscent of two drunk mannequins having a slap showdown. The voice acting isn't as good as I remember it either. Most of the civilians feel like they just awoke from a 100-year slumber. I know this one was one of my brother's favourites back in the day, and it was pretty cool to play when we're like 13, but I think it's best just to stick with San Andreas for now. I'll be honest, I was never a huge fan of the Red Faction games. I admired the graphics, but I never really got into it. But it's one of those games that we have to respect because of its impact. I mean, we got destructible environments before that was a popular thing. You could literally blow a tunnel through a wall just to skip through an entire level. Mind blown. But it definitely feels like the shelf life date is a distant memory going back to it. The tech is still pretty cool, but the rest feels like it aged like a gas station sandwich. It's like shooting Nerf dart guns. The enemies forget why they're even there to begin with, and the voice acting feels like it was recorded in a washing machine. And the colours are not particularly attractive, it's aggressively painted brown, everywhere. Everyone loves a good World War II game, and in terms of large-scale battles, Battlefield is pretty much the gold standard. This one was ahead of its time, but now it feels more so very much part of its time. Playing this game in the current year is like entering a history museum where the exhibits try to shoot back at you. The movement feels like you're wading through spilt golden syrup, or the tartar sauce traps on SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. The aiming feels looser than your grandmother's Facebook password, and piloting any vehicle is a one-way ticket to an accidental kamikaze death. Yet again, we can't disrespect 1942 too much. I mean, it laid the groundwork for Bad Company and the entire modern genre, but replaying it is like reliving a nostalgic high school memory, only to realise it was actually pretty cringe. The guns sound like cap guns, AI teammates are super brain dead or extremely psychic, and the maps are vast oceans of nothing, where finding people is a challenge in itself. And like with most classics, launching it feels like disarming a C4 on a round of Counter-Strike. Compatibility patches, mods, patches, all just so you can be sniped by a guy standing on a jeep. Late 90s and early 2000s. A time for Toy Story and Toy Soldiers, those little plastic green guys, wild backyard missions, traversing through toilets, kitchens and greenhouses, like Toy Story but with real guns. This was your closest ticket to being a badass action figure, except it also kind of plays like one too, stiff and kind of hollow. The nostalgia bomb is still strong, but the aiming system feels non-existent, and the hit detection feels off. The game was ambitious at the time. Sure, it's full of weird physics, glitchy enemies and MS Paint looking environments, but it still feels somewhat charming. Sarge talks like someone's dad trying his hardest to do his best Rambo impression, and the rest of the cast sound kind of like they're reading the ingredients list off a cereal box at gunpoint. As a kid, hearing there's a game where you could play as multiple Jedi slicing through waves of droids across movie locations would probably hype me up. On paper, Power Battles sounds like a dream, but in reality, it's more like a fever dream. I'm talking about the classic, not the remastered one, where everyone moves like they're wearing rollerblades on butter. I mean, Jedi with lightsabers should feel powerful, but hitboxes are a lie, and the camera has no idea what it's doing. Jumping feels like you're launching yourself off of a trampoline whilst blindfolded, and half of the time when you die, it's not because you actually got hit, but because you slipped off a platform that looks solid, but was apparently just vibes. The platforming in this game is like Tomb Raider with some added lag and more bouncing. The multiplayer is somewhat worse, it just ends with both people falling into pits on repeat and cursing each other for pushing the screen too far. Dead to Rights was marketed like some gritty John Wick type crime shooter, where you could dual wield pistols and slow-mo dive through doorways like you were starring in the next Matrix flick, and send your adopted dog like a furry missile. Now, what we got is basically all that, but screams 2000's tank fluid together with slow animations and misery from mashing buttons. Shadow, the dog amigo, is the real MVP here. It's literally the only responsive thing in the game, but you actually shoot like you have the accuracy of an OAP texting blindfolded, and half the time you're locked into unstoppable slow-mo dive sequences that drag on longer than the actual story itself. The minigames are just button mash hiccups for disarming bombs, administering CPR and doing strip searches. It's like the devs got bored one night and asked ChatGPT for a bunch of game ideas and figured they all sounded cool and tried to make them all at once, then forgot to finish one properly. The voice acting is giving pure cop show fan fiction energy. The enemies aim like real Navy SEALs, but also have the potato intelligence to match. If you had a PlayStation 1 or N64 back in the day, you either played Twisted Metal or Vigilante, and don't get me wrong, this one was a favourite of mine as a kid. This game is like Mad Max has a meltdown in the Walmart parking lot. There's school buses with rockets, UFOs, disco vans with laser rays. It was chaotic but colourful, and somehow felt cooler than it actually was. Firing it up now, it's like your memory got hit with a tranquilizer because the controls are equally as much chaos as the game's concept. Your car turns like a barge sailing on a frozen lake. Weapons struggle to register, and most of the time you're spinning in circles to locate the enemy's position. The camera either doesn't move at all or spins like it's on a carousel of torment. It's like car ballet performed during an earthquake, with physics that are like a distant memory. You hit a pebble and you're launched out into the stratosphere, or you clip into a wall and spontaneously explode for no apparent reason. It was fun and had personality, and if I'm completely honest, a lot of its problems are still part of its charm. Most people right now are thinking about GTA 6, but Rockstar published a game called State of Emergency, which was pretty much a riot simulator. You're basically a rebel taking part in a violent corporate uprising, which in reality is like 10 minutes running in circles punching identical NPCs who fall over like plastic bowling pins, while Team Atir rage against the machine tracks ruminate through your ears. Sprint, mash buttons, and repeat is basically all there is to it, and every mission pretty much boils down to go and hit stuff. It's like Streets of Rage had a failed abortion, which turned out to be an early access Unity Kickstarter rug pull. The frame rate tanks when more than about 5 people turn up, and the AI just stands there ready to take a roundhouse kick to the face. The missions are pretty repetitive and they begin to feel like you're stuck in a time loop. The worst part is it felt fun at the time. The raw chaos, the large-scale crowds, broken glass. Back in 2002, it was all the rage. But now it's just a dated mess of low-poly mall riots and edgy punk energy. I love military games, so I thought it'd be a good idea to feature a tactical entry. This was the co-op military shooter everyone rented on disc because it was like a gritty, squad-based COD, before Call of Duty really figured itself out. You control a bunch of top-tier soldiers behind enemy lines during the Gulf War, which in reality is you yelling at AI teammates to move and do something. The squad comms were legendary for their time though, but now they feel like you're coaching toddlers to use walkie-talkies. You tell one guy to flank the enemy and he runs into a wall. You'll tell the other to take cover and he'll sprint through a minefield. It's tactical, if the tactic part was chaos. The aiming system is like trying to snipe with a potato taped to a mop handle. The graphics are dated, they dated like military rations. These games were absolute bangers, until you decided to boot them up again. It's wild how our brains remember pure gold and delivered us fool's gold. Perhaps I'm being a little harsh, these are still fun to play and have their charm, just don't expect the day one experience with modern hardware, emulators and complex setups. Let me know which one of these broke your heart the most, or if there's another cursed classic I forgot to feature. Smash the like button if you discovered a new game or unlocked an old memory, and subscribe for more. And don't forget to watch one of these 2 videos next to continue the fun.